The knife trembled in Abraham's hand. The dawn sky burned crimson, streaked with fire and shadow. Isaac lay bound on the altar, small and trembling. Abraham's chest heaved. His heart pounded louder than the wind through the mountains. A voice thundered through the still morning, "Abraham!" And then silence. But before that moment, before the knife rose and the mountain held its breath, Abraham's journey had already begun decades earlier. A journey of faith, of promises, of impossible obedience. Abram was not always a man of renown. He was once Abram, a simple man from Ur, living in a world full of gods and idols. Yet God called him to leave everything familiar, his homeland, his family, his security. "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you," God had said. Imagine it, leaving everything you know, stepping into the unknown, trusting only in a promise spoken in a whisper from heaven. And Abram obeyed. He journeyed through deserts, across rivers, under a relentless sun, trusting a God he had never seen. Every mile of sand tested his patience. Every cold night tested his courage. And yet the voice of God carried him forward, like a lantern in the darkness. Decades passed. Abram grew older. His wife Sarai remained childless. Time mocked him. The world whispered that God's promises were empty. But God's words remained. "I will make you a father of many nations. Your offspring will be as countless as the stars." Abram looked up at the night sky. Stars burned bright above the desert, uncountable, distant, untouchable. And he believed. Faith is believing in the impossible, even when the impossible feels painfully far away. Finally, God gave them a son, Isaac, a child of promise, the culmination of decades of trust. The joy that filled Abraham's heart was pure, yet fragile. He knew every blessing could come with a test. And then it came. The words that would shake the very foundations of his faith. "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, and offer him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you." The first time Abraham heard it, his knees nearly buckled. He fell to the ground. His heart ached. This was more than a test. This was unthinkable. But Abraham had walked with God long enough to know one truth. God's commands were not without purpose, even if the purpose was hidden from mortal eyes. He rose, trembling, and obeyed. Abraham woke before dawn, preparing for the journey. He loaded wood on Isaac's back, harnessed the donkey, and set out silently. Sarai and the servants watched from the doorway, unaware of the command that weighed heavier than mountains. Days passed. The sun scorched their backs. The nights were cold, and Abraham's heart was heavier than any stone in the desert. Isaac, unaware, laughed and ran ahead, picking flowers from the roadside. Abraham's chest tightened at the sight. Every step was agony. "Could I really do this?" he whispered to himself over and over. "Could I raise my hand against the son God promised me?" Every night he prayed. Every moment he wrestled with fear and trust. Faith, he realized, was not easy. It was raw, it was terrifying, and it demanded everything. Finally, they reached the base of Mount Moriah. The mountain loomed above them, jagged and unforgiving. Abraham's hands shook as he lifted the wood for the altar. Isaac asked again with innocence that pierced his heart, "Father, where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" "God will provide, my son," Abraham said, forcing calm. His voice trembled like the wind through the trees. Every sound around them became amplified, the scrape of wood on stone, the whistle of wind through crevices, the distant call of a bird. Each step up the mountain was slower than the last. Every footfall echoed like a drumbeat of destiny. At the top, Abraham laid the wood carefully on the altar. His hands were trembling uncontrollably. He took Isaac, bound his hands and feet. The boy did not struggle. He trusted his father. The sight of Isaac, his eyes wide, looking up at him, made his chest feel as if it would shatter. and yet he obeyed. The knife was in his hand, the morning sun glinted off its steel. Time slowed, the wind paused, even the birds held their breath. Was he about to commit the unthinkable? "Father, what if God does not provide?" Isaac asked, his voice trembling. Abraham's heart cracked. Trust is not in knowing the outcome, he thought. Trust is in walking the path even when you cannot see. He raised the knife. The metal caught the first light of dawn, flashing cold and terrifying. And then a rustle in the thicket. Abraham froze. A sound, a frantic, desperate bleat, cut through the silence. His eyes darted towards the noise. There, caught by its horns in the thicket, was a ram, its eyes wide, body straining, tangled in branches. God had provided, but Abraham did not move yet.
His hand hovered above Isaac, his heart thundered. Would he truly trust in the provision, or would fear break him at the final moment? The mountain waited, Abraham waited, and so did Isaac. Abraham's hand froze mid-air. The ram thrashed in the thicket, caught by its horns, eyes wide with panic. Isaac looked up at his father, confusion and fear mixed in his gaze. Abraham's heart thundered. Every muscle screamed. Could he trust the provision? Could he obey God's command, yet spare his son? Then the voice came again, clear, commanding, full of authority and love. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Abraham's knees buckled. Tears streamed down his face. He dropped the knife. Hurriedly, Abraham untied Isaac, his hands shaking as if he would never be able to grasp anything steady again. Isaac rubbed his wrists, looking at his father with wide, questioning eyes. "Father, God has provided," Abraham said, his voice choked. He grabbed the ram from the thicket and placed it on the altar. The smoke spiraled upward like a prayer, curling into the sky, carrying the fragrance of obedience and trust. The ram's sacrifice replaced what had seemed inevitable. And in that moment, Abraham understood something profound. Faith was not the absence of fear, but moving forward despite it. Abraham fell to his knees beside Isaac, holding him close. The boy's small body trembled, but the warmth of his father's embrace grounded him. Tears streamed down Abraham's face, but they were no longer tears of fear. They were tears of awe. The mountain seemed to breathe with them. Sunlight pierced the clouds, illuminating father and son in golden rays. The silence of the morning was broken by the song of a bird, soft, clear, a celebration of life, of faith, of divine provision. Abraham whispered a prayer, voice trembling. "Lord, I will trust you with all I have. You are my God, my guide, my provision." Isaac looked up at him, eyes shining with trust and innocence. "Father, I am safe." "Yes, my son, because God is faithful." In that moment, Abraham saw the full weight of God's test. It had not been about the knife or the fire or the sacrifice. It had been about trust, complete, unshakable trust. Faith required him to step into the impossible. Obedience demanded the unimaginable. He held him high, looking toward the sky, whispering words of praise. The mountain seemed to shine with divine glory, the light a reminder that heaven had watched every step, every tear, every heartbeat. Faith often asks us to walk into the unknown. It asks for patience when promises feel delayed. It demands obedience when our hearts scream otherwise. We may not face the exact test Abraham faced, but every believer encounters moments that demand trust in God's plan. Moments where the path seems impossible, the outcome uncertain. Abraham's story reminds us, God sees every sacrifice of the heart. Trust does not make life easy, but it makes it purposeful. Divine provision often comes in ways we do not expect, at the last possible moment. Even when we face our own Mount Moriah, when fear grips our hearts and the weight seems unbearable, we can trust, because God provides.
Abraham and Isaac descended the mountain together, hearts heavy with awe but light with faith. The ram's sacrifice was a symbol, a promise. God honors obedience and provides for his children. And so the ultimate test ended not in loss, but in revelation. What would you do if God asked the impossible of you? Would you trust, as Abraham did, when the path seems unbearably steep, the outcome uncertain? Faith does not promise that the journey will be easy. Faith promises that God will never leave your side. And Abraham learned, as we must all learn, obedience, even in the darkest, most impossible moments, opens the door to the miraculous.